Okay, folks, I mentioned before there were 20 screws that held down the upper portion of the head. Well, after removing those 20, I tried to separate it, and it could not. So I looked around and found 3 more. 1, 2, 3. So make sure you have all out. So at this point, we have 23 out. And simply by prying not between here, but that's a little lip sticking out, put my screwdriver right on the bottom of that lip and pry like this, and pry here and here under these 2 lips. Make sure you do not put it between the surface that house their gasket. Okay, and there you go. The head is upper head is loose and ready to come out. Okay, now I'm going to place 2 more marks on here. And spray this chain down with a little bit of starting fluid to clean it off. Once that dry, I'm going to mark the chain to the cam sprocket on the intake and on the exhaust. Just pick any teeth on the sprocket and put little either white out. If you don't have any, just get a little white paint, put it on the tip of your screwdriver and touch it on the spot, like right here on the chain, and have some hit that sprocket teeth also, and do the same over here. That way you can use that for alignment when you put the new chain on. But also you will count the number of links between those 2, since once you take this off, you won't be putting this back on again. So you count the links so you know how many links between the marks, this mark and that mark. Here we go. Okay, we have those 2 marks, and give that a minute to dry up, or you can use a heat gun and dry that real fast. And then I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So from mark to mark, we have 13. Okay, with all the screws out, after you got to wiggle this a little bit. Keep wiggling it out until this pops out, because this portion here of the cover is actually right under the backing plate. So once you get that out and get it out of the way, you can proceed to the next stage, which would be to remove the chain by creating more slack in it. Get your camshaft out of there. And take your chain off completely and your tensioner. There is nothing wrong with this chain, but the customer wanted it replaced. Essentially was doing the rest of the job, the timing belt and the tensioner. The marks are still on the sprocket, on both of them. Make sure you do not wipe this mark off accidentally or intentionally. I don't know why you would do it intentionally anyway. With that done, we're going to remove the exhaust cam. And I don't have a pulley handy to pull off the front cam gear. So I'm going to try tapping it off from the back till it comes out, because we need that off. So once we set the cam in place, the cover will be able to fit on properly. And after we remove this, we have to take the backing plate off, and then we can just sit the head cover back on. But with this on there, it's going to make the job more difficult. So all I'm going to do now is, with a brass drift, tap on the back of this gently, closer to the camshaft, gently, for it to come off. Okay, we have to remove the backing plate. In order to do that, there are two 10mm head screws that I have to remove to do that, and then that comes right off. Pick up the cam, bring it over. I previously removed the screw from this end. Now, if I had a pulley handy, I could have used that pulley to pull this off. Since I don't, with this out, I'm going to go ahead and tap around here gently until I work this loose. Okay, I already have this off, but I'm going to show you basically what I did. I couldn't find my drift, my brass drift, so I got another one, placed it right here, and holding this up above the table, tapped it gently here, moved it around, gently there, around again, then I went back and forth until this dropped out. Do it over a table or something, because there is a keyway with a key in it that might fall out, and you don't want to lose that. So, and that's the key. I remove the old seal, because we're going to replace that, and the key actually fits right in here. Okay, you go to put it back together, make sure you put this on the correct way, or it should only go on one way. This the outside and this the inside. Slide it over the key, right? But after you have replaced the seal. Okay. Okay, this is the cover we took off of the cams. You need to clean off this surface, the contact surface. Gonna use a single edge razor blade and scrape. I've already scraped this off, most of this stuff off. Scrape it off nicely. Across here, wherever this little brown stain is where the adhesive was. Try and get as much of it off as you can. Okay, after scraping that, I'm gonna use a little scuff pad. Scuff it up. Get your air, if you have air, and blow it all off, or just simply wipe it down. Make sure the bearing seats are clean also. Okay, and I went around the dealership and picked up, this is the old cam seal, the exhaust cam seal, and this the cam cap for the intake. Went and got 2 new ones from the VW dealership, because even though all the parts was provided by the owner of the car, he didn't bring these. It's best to use new ones. It's too much work to be messing with putting sealant around the old ones and replacing them. It's not worth it. This is the sealant VW cell. Very expensive. This costs over, list price is over 80 bucks. All right, for this little tube, which when they told me the price, I asked them what were they smoking before they went to work today. Okay, now using the razor blade, you would do the same to the flat surface. But I try to scrape away from the head so any debris will fall outside the cylinder head. Do that as best as you can, because when you scrape around here, you can avoid that. Okay? And I'll run the scuff pad over those areas, not in the bearing area, not where the cam will lie. Don't mess with that area. All right, just scuff over that. Try and get it as clean as possible. Around the dowel pins, because there may be excess buildup around that. These pins help locate the head, the top of the head. Help them sit on there properly before you bolt them down. Then, using my air blower, I'm gonna blow off gently this area. Little oil might splash on you over the place. Once that's blown off, you can take a clean rag and wipe that area off again, if you wish. Okay, this is your new timing chain tensioner, held on again by 3 screws. I'm going to tighten these screws down. Just snug them up for now. Okay, with the tensioner on, we're going to torque it down. I'll give you a list of all the torques for all these various things, so you have them. With clean hands and clean gloves, pick up the camshaft, intake and exhaust. I've already counted the links. Here's my white mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 to the next white mark. Place the chain over the tensioner. Drop the cams down in place. And you'll notice that it do not sit evenly, and that's because the cam followers are pushing them up. Okay? Once you put the cap on and bolt it down, everything should sit right. Okay, with this expensive sealant, you need to go around the cover all the way around. Make sure you don't get any on the bearing, in the bearing area. You don't need to do an overkill with this. You just need once you clamp it down, it will form a thin layer. Go around here also, around these 4 spark plug holes, and make sure when you lift it up, you don't touch the sealant. You have to watch where you put this thing, because not everywhere, every place that look like it belongs is supposed to have it. All right? For instance, some of these areas are oil passageways, like right in here. All right, it's the groove for oil, and to get in this area around the camshaft. And back here, you don't really have to worry about this, because that vacuum pump area where also the fuel pump is, that's going to cover this area. So if oil flows into that area, it needs oil back there for lubricating those things. Okay? Whenever I'm assembling anything like this, areas that require a lot of oil, I usually bathe that area with oil along the cam. So when you crank your engine over the first time, there will be some oil in that area. Now I'm going to place this cover. Be careful not to touch the treated area. And put this in place. Okay. With this sitting down like this, I'm going to put in a couple of screws and then check my timing marks again. You can see right here, the first marks I made cap to camshaft are lined up, and back here is lined up also. Now I need to make sure that I have the right teeth count between the markings on the sprockets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, right on. All right? So we're gonna screw this down now. No, before we screw it down, I'm gonna install the cam cap and the cam seal. The circumference of these are rubber, so you don't really need to put any sealant on them, right? So turn it inside. This end goes in. Sit in place over here. And you push it in until it bottoms out. All right? Now on this one, I will put a little oil around here so it will slide in more easily. Or even WD-40, I might use that because it's if you have that, you can use that just a little bit. With the oil on the inner lip, I'll slide this in place, wiggle it. Okay, I heard a little noise here, so I want to make sure I didn't damage the inner lip on the hole for the keyway. So as I put it in this time, I'm gonna feed that in first before I wiggle the bottom in. All the way in till it bottoms out. You can't push it in any further. All right, those two are in place. Next will be to put the screws in and tighten things down. Okay, we have the 23 screws in place. All right, 4 in the back, 4, 4, 4, 4, and 3. I'm gonna run them down by hand. Remember, I like to crisscross to make sure I get an even pull down on the top over the camshafts. Okay, now I've done the 4 here. I'm gonna go here, and here, and here, and here. Next. Okay, then I'm gonna go here, 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 and here, starting in the center and working out. Yeah, kind of jumped it. Kind of missed one there. I jumped from here to here. I should have gone to here. So I'm going to hit this one. And then do this one. This one is already done. And since I've already done this now, I will go to this one. Okay, and go over here, to here. Now all of these within this area are done. So now I'm going to the outer edge. And before doing this, I could have done these two in here, right? And then jump out here. But since I started this way, I'm going to continue like this. The whole idea is to pull this thing down fairly evenly. This one is not going down easily, probably because of a little bit of glue in that hole. Going back here again. The last one. No, actually, there's one more. There's one more actually right here. Okay, I'm gonna go on down the line. I just lost the pin for my torque wrench, so I just threw a screw in there until I can get another one. And go on down the line with the same pattern and torque these down. Okay, once you got all of them down, then we'll go to the next step, which will be to double check your timing marks. Okay, and then I'll put the cam gear back on, the sprocket up front, back on for the timing belt. And looking at this, this is something I do not like to do. I've put too much sealant on here. As you can see, this green sealant. It's okay on the outside, but I don't like this much on the inside of the head area. Because I have a very bad experience from when I was racing. I put my VW Beetle engine together. It's a split case engine. I put too much sealant on when I first started doing this type of thing. And that cost me over $1,000. Because some fell off into the engine, clogged up the pickup tube, and couldn't get oil to my bearings. Wiped the crank, and I had to spend a lot of money to get that back and running. So when I see stuff like this, I don't like that. So I might go back and wipe off the excess on the inside. All right, and remember, you need it around the spark plug holes so oil will not leak into this hole. And that's the same reason you have the valve cover gasket with seal around the holes also. Okay, with a little bit of bearing grease, I'm going to put it in this hole where in the key wheel, where the key go for this pulley, and drop the key wheel, the circumference of semicircular side down in that hole, and the grease will hold it in place. Stuff like this, I rather use my finger without a glove because I feel I have better control of it. You don't want to drop that down and lose it. But I didn't feel like taking off my glove. And now, next, I'm going to put the backing plate back on. It's held on by two 10mm screws. Okay, these two right here. If you have some Loctite, it's good to put a little Loctite or lock and seal, however you want to call it, on it, because you do not want this thing to come off while your engine is running. Okay, we're going to run these in and then put this back on and put the screw back in place. Okay? Okay, now I'm going to tighten these two down. Stuff like this, I don't bother with torque specs on this. And I will add that most of these screws, in fact, all of these screws came out very easily. So if you don't have a torque wrench, even though I wouldn't recommend it, I recommend you go somewhere and borrow one or rent one. When I took these off, using the proper size tool, I took them off just like this. Simply like that. No two hands or anything. All right? So now that this is on, I'm going to carefully, you have to make sure your keyway is in a way that is kind of parallel to this face, not one end of the keyway down and the other end up. Okay, so when you slide it on, this I need my glasses for this. The key will fall right into the keyway instead of pushing the key out. Line them up. If you find that it starts rising in the back, get a screwdriver and just push down on this gently. As you wiggle it in, make sure it doesn't come back out. Okay, we're in place. To make sure it's in place, try turning this. It should not turn. It's locked in place. Put a little lock and seal on your thread. Run it in. Okay, get a little hammer and tap this, make sure it's seated. Then okay, it's in there. And later on I'm gonna use a swivel and a straight 16 millimeter and try and torque this down. And this is gonna be a little tricky because when you try to torque it, this whole thing gonna wanna turn. So a lot of times with the experience, I just hit it with an impact gun a couple of times, and that's always worked for me. Okay, and when I say hit it, you're talking about like a prop prop like that, and not, you don't want that long. All right, it's a little unprofessional, but sometimes that works. Okay, checking. We've already checked the back. Now we need to check the front and make sure the timing marks are on. Okay, that's the mark on the cam gear, and that's the mark on the cover. They're lined up, and then we go down bottom to the crankshaft. All right, and we see that this mark is lined up with a mark on the cover. So timing wise, we in business. Now at this point, you can remove the pin, right, out of the tensioner. I always keep these for spare in case I ever need to compress a tensioner for when I'm doing a job like this, to hold that tensioner in place before, as I remove it and reinstall it.